It's 4 o'clock. I don't know if there's any protocol about saying the Pledge of Allegiance sitting down. But if we stand up, we're gonna see everybody's midriff or belt line. So can we do the pledge sitting down then? I
Yes.
pledge allegiance to the flag,
Flag
United States of
of the United
America,
States of America,
and to the
to
the
republic for which it
for
stands,
stands,
one nation, under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
liberty
liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Welcome, everybody. Mayor, welcome back. We're glad to see that you're up and around and doing well. That's real pleasant to see you around.
Thank you. It's not a recommendation. I would not recommend this practice for anybody, but
Well, don't do it again, okay?
they told me they wouldn't do it again. This is once and done, so.
Well, Robin, welcome aboard. We're really pleased to see you on board. You're going to be a big addition to the team. I think you and Austin work well together. So congratulations. Thank you for coming with us.
Yeah, thank you. Look forward to it.
Okay, the entire board's here, and as is Mayor Becker and our general manager, Austin, and our legal counsel, Mike. Any revisions or additions to the agenda? Okay, item 4, consent agenda. Is there a motion to accept the consent agenda, or anybody wants to pull out anything first?
I do have 2 questions on the December 8th meeting minutes.
Okay, you want to approve? Go ahead.
And
Just point of order recommendation. So what I would recommend is if you had a question on December 8th, Tom, I would move those out from the consent agenda and we can talk about your questions after. But this way we can get a vote on the consent agenda.
So do you want to move that out, Tom?
yeah, no problem.
Okay, so is there a motion on the consent agenda without the minutes of that November, which one did you say?
December 8th.
December 8th.
So- December 8th meeting, okay. Do I have a motion for that?
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Go ahead, Tom, do you want to?
Sure, on
The 8th out?
on page 2, there's under Mr. Webb referred to the last meeting, it says change in minutes needed. Was that about the prior minutes, or? I was a little confused on that paragraph.
It was. I believe that someone had referred to higher voltage with the electricians coming in and being able to work on higher voltage in the previous minute. But I think that Mr. Plack changed the wording, so that needed to be changed in the prior minutes.
Okay, no problem. Then the second one was on page 7.
Which
This
item?
was on,
My pages aren't numbered, so what? item?
it's item 10,
Okay,
and this is about the reimbursement to the, let's see, let me go back to the title here. The Green Energy Fund. I just like, it says that I recused myself at the beginning, but then on the vote, it says that it passed unanimously. And I think it's probably appropriate to note that I have
I can
recused
make that
myself.
change.
Yeah. And then the last one was on, let me go back here. Item 12, wastewater treatment plant. The paragraph, it starts, Mr. Webb questioned if mitigation committee. Further on in that paragraph, it says they are not updating for 5 years. I think to clarify that, it should be they are not updating Atlas 14 for the next 5 years.
Atlas 14, okay.
Yeah. That was it.
Okay. Can we have a motion to accept the minutes as amended?
Well, I make a motion to accept them.
We have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
I'd like to mention, Sharon, these minutes are the best they've ever been since I've been here. They're
Oh,
excellent.
great.
Thank you very much. They're well done. They're easy to read and easy to find things. So great job.
Thank you.
Receive Inmark wastewater treatment plant report. Mike or Richard? You
Josh,
out there?
you want to put Mike
Yeah.
and Richard on?
Yeah, I'll put them on. Just a moment.
Mike,
Mike.
how are you?
Good, thank you.
Good. What do you got to tell us?
So regarding the headworks, we continue to use this dewatering dumpster. But as it's gotten colder, we've encountered frequent issues. We have it alarmed, so it does call out when we get high levels, and we've had frequent high levels over the past couple months. In December, it called us out 10 times that I have recorded, and the guys have to come out and pressure wash this thing to try to get it to filter better. So it has been more problematic. So anything that we could do to ramp up. I know the Headworks project's in design, but it will involve a compactor. And if there's any way that the board could procure a compactor prior to final completion of this design project, that would be much appreciated.
Austin, can you talk to GMB about that? And
So we had a meeting today and we discussed it briefly. The biggest thing is that once the design is actually finalized, call it 95% complete, because I'm sure that we're going to run into some snafus as we go down this path. The question of what exactly is determined as a major upgrade or major change to the process. I know Richard had a brief discussion with Nicole and Jenna over at Denrec, and there was a question on whether or not going from a live pactor to a compactor is a direct replacement. So we're still kind of figuring out if that is possible, if they view that as direct replacement. If not, there's a detailed permitting that comes in place. The other question is, since we went after emergency funding, I'm assuming that the permitting aspect of this is also on an expedited schedule, just because that kind of defeats the purpose of the expedited funding. So there's a couple of things that we met today, Richard and I, Robin and Scott Getchell, and Josh Elliott from GMB, and then Curtis from Curtis Power. So we're pushing ahead as fast as we can.
okay, Mike.
Okay, appreciate it. Regarding pump stations, so we still continue to have an issue with the priming of pump station 1. I have listed here all the things that we've done to try to address this. I'm sorry, pump 1 at pump station 4. I know Richard had ordered supplies, or through BPW had gotten new discharge and check valves for both 1 and 2, both pumps 1 and 2. Rich, do you have an update on that project?
Yes, we received the parts and should be able to have them installed this coming month in February, based on availability of contractor to install and or assist with installation of that. So we're continuing to move forward and making that one of the highest priorities in order to get that pump back online fully operational. So additionally, with the pump stations, pump station 8, we're still awaiting the arrival of some parts for Hills to rebuild pump 2 at station 8, as well as still awaiting parts arrival for the transfer switch to be able to perform those upgrades to the station.
Where do we stand with the getting back to 4 with the replacement of the elbows on the intakes for clean out purposes?
So as far as that, we had referred back to GHD for further input based on the fact that the only suggestion that they made was replacing that elbow with a T, and did not make any comment that was substantial in regards to the elbow that is inside of the wet well, or any other suggestions that would help resolve the issue of the clogging based on the design of the wet well at the moment.
I thought they prepared a detailed drawing of that.
They prepared a detailed drawing of just the ability to clean out the suction line when it becomes clogged. And the question that was posed back was, that solves the issue when it is clogged, but how do we prevent the clogging from happening? Whether we put a splash plate, whether we change up to 90 and turn it like at a 45. And that question was posed back to GHD, and they had some further investigating that they wanted to look into within the collection system to see if there was any sort of frequency when this comes through, like with high rain events, and whether or not a splash plate would only cause further issues, or if they needed the aeration that we discussed earlier, that actually Scott Getchell came through with. But there's been no real permanent answer to it.
But how about, couldn't you have gone forward with the replacement of the elbow at least? Wouldn't that, at least if we had a problem, we could clear it.
Potentially, that will increase the potential ability to clear the clog. However, it gives us some additional access, but it doesn't resolve completely our ability to clear that clog. So that's why we paused for hopeful further information from the engineering group in regards to whether or not we can remove the 90 on the wet well side. That would allow us full access of being able to purge that line at the suction side of things.
Yeah,
Rich,
I thought the discussion we had with GHD was doing them both together, because one may require rework of the other.
when you say both, are you saying changing the 90 at the bottom and also the T that would be put in for the clean out?
Providing access for a clean out and preventing the clogging. That those two may be intertwined. The solution may be intertwined.
Correct.
So so we discussed this a little bit today, not in this capacity. We're doing the major headworks upgrade, and we're also doing pump station upgrades. And there's a discussion of some significant changes at pump station 4, electrical changes, and whether or not we loop this into that, or whether we do this outside of that scope. And if we do that outside of the scope, we can actually, if we want to, we can have Sprigg, who's coming in to look at and replace the valving at 4. If they take a look at it, maybe they come with almost like an engineered design at that point. Have them look at it while they're doing the other work and see what they come up with.
All right, we ought to get that going, because we don't want to have another incident out there, and it seems like it's a real problem trying to clear that thing. And if we can get that elbow taken care of, I think that's going to be a first step. I didn't realize it was contingent upon the other work. So, okay, sorry. Go ahead, Mike.
No, you're good. Thank you.
Can I back up just a little bit? I
Sure.
looked at the prior board meeting, and it said train 4 deragging started the week of 10/11/21, and this package has that it's actually been completed now on 12/28. That's about 2.5 months. Is that a typical cycle, or was there a reason for it to be stretched out?
Well, the issue with the headworks, having to replace the power line to the headworks had derailed things we were focused on, and the contractors that we use were focused on resolving that issue.
Okay.
So that occurred.
From a prioritization perspective, I understand. So thank you.
Sure. So back to pump stations then, we did receive a proposal from Hills to replace the pumps at Pump Station 3. Pump Station 3, a bunch of pump stations discharge into Pump Station 3. It's the third largest pump station. The pumps are pretty much beyond their useful life. I mean, they're still pumping, but parts are not accessible to replace them. They're obsolete. So to replace in kind with Gorman-Rupp pumps, not, with new Gorman-Rupp pumps, which we have Gorman-Rupp pumps there, was $73,000, and that was for Hills to do the install. There is also no bypass facilities at this station, so that at Station 4 you can easily hook a bypass pump. It has valving and a cam fitting to be able to hook up a bypass pump. At Pump Station 3, the wet well is actually out in the road, and the road's fairly busy. So it's Pilot Town Road, I believe. Road's fairly busy, and so you would have to, if you were to bypass, we'd have to somehow take out a check valve or something within the station and to hook up the bypass pump, and then the pump would be out in the road. So it is a higher priority. I know in discussions with Rich today, we were looking to get some alternatives to the Gorman-Rupp pumps from Flight and I believe Smith Loveless. So, but that it is a higher priority we wanted to bring to the board's attention.
So you would go to submersibles in there? Is that what you're thinking?
It's an option, but the wet well being out in the street's not ideal either.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
That's so, it may be something, the board wants to take a deeper look into long-term planning there.
Is the wet well large enough to put a submersible, two submersible pumps in?
It would be very difficult there to put submersible pumps because you would have to, you'd have to run power out there, and, usually there's a hoist, like a hoist base, that would have to be there to be able to pull the pumps.
It would have to be like some of the smaller ones,
Structure.
It would have to be something like some of the smaller ones on the beach side that have the hatches in the road. And is that wet well, do you know, is it brick or cast concrete, or what is it? It's an older,
think it's
look
bad.
at the top.
I believe it's brick. Richard, is that correct?
I believe part of it is brick, and I believe part of it is also precast or cast over with concrete. Doing a dry pump would be ideal to replace inside of that building where the pumps are now. However, the idea of going away from the Gorman-Rupp style pump is to allow access for possible bypass pump connection points. So with the limited space, we're trying to reach whatever option is easiest for accomplishing that goal.
Do we need to accomplish or choose a design before we finish up on Pilot Town Road and do the paving in the spring?
You pose great questions, Tom. So if you're utilizing, we talked about the ability of putting the bypass in and keeping the wet well where it is. If you wanted to relocate the wet well, it would to find a location in that area. I mean, you'd have to basically, the only location you would be able to go to is either if you're staring at the wet well to the left, but there is a power pole, and I believe the 3-phase comes off of there, goes underground to the station. So there'd be some work there.
It would be a major project.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would seem like putting in a bypass line from the wet well to the building to allow for a bypass pump might be the easiest, best solution.
Well, we probably shouldn't try to design it here, but I think that
Yeah.
really needs some serious consideration as quickly as possible. And any recommendations Mike and Richard have to our engineers would be really helpful.
Sure, yeah, and Rich had mentioned the dry pit submersible. We use Flight dry pit submersibles at a treatment plant that I operate in Bucks County, Pennsylvania.
Mhm.
You know, most of their pump stations have the Flight dry pit submersibles, and they work fairly well.
Okay.
Don't have a lot of issues. So yeah, we'll follow up with vendors and get some suggestions.
Thanks, Mike.
Russ, do we have any word back on the study that was being done around, with another company about trying to figure out what pumps need to be where kind of thing?
Well, that's still in the process. We got a revised report on the well 4, pumping station 4. Just got that
Yesterday.
yesterday. I haven't read it yet. It's very detailed, very comprehensive. I'm sorry. So I haven't gone through that. I'm not sure it addresses. I know it addresses some of the issues, but does it go anywhere past pumping station 4? Does it get into the other pumping stations?
I think it was mainly 4. I don't know if they went to 3 yet.
So
I didn't know if there was a technology or a vendor that they were recommending. I just was trying to figure out if there's a way to do this.
I put the board on, defrost, add a little bit of refrigerant, not too much. Okay, great, thank you. Let's go. Let's hope this one stays. Yeah.
Hey, Josh. Thanks.
Do we know?
Charlie-
Excuse me.
Charlie has his hand raised. I don't know if you guys want to acknowledge that now or.
I'm sorry. I'm not good at keeping, who had their hand raised?
Charlie O'Donnell.
Charlie? Okay.
Yeah, allow him in.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can you
Hey,
hear me?
Charlie.
Hey, Charlie.
Yep. I mean, just with regard to the discussion about pump station 3, I don't think that you want to jump into any solution before you really look at it. We've only been aware of it for a few hours now after meeting with everybody today. But, we really think that there's ways to bypass the pumps without getting into Pilot Town Road. And we're not convinced that the wet well needs to be replaced or relocated. It may be an option that it just needs to be coated. Because as you guys mentioned, that would be a very, very expensive project with very few location availability for a relocated well. I just wanted to throw that out there. GMB did reach out to both Smith and Lovelace and Reardon Materials today to get optional pricing for the Flight pumps and the Smith and Lovelace pumps. So hopefully we'll get response on that relatively quickly so we can compare it to the Hills proposal.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you, Charlie. It's, I totally agree.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that whatever, we come up with a solution before we get into the repaving season.
I think based off our conversations today, I think we can, we have a couple different ideas when we were out there that we just kind of sprung on to everybody, just talking, back of the envelope. I know Josh, Scott, Charlie, they're all looking into them. Same thing, we can bring it up to GHD too. But I think we have a good path forward there. I think once we get the 2 other quotes for the pumps there, then it'll kind of give us a clear path forward. And we may just loop that in as one project, obviously, because you're going to have one contractor there. And see, again, we're going to have Spring do some work for us. So we'll see how, they do. It's the first time we've used them. So
Charlie, do we know anybody, do we know what kind of condition that wet well is? I mean, if if it's brick, Charlie says we could line it, that's a great idea. Do we know what kind of condition it's in now?
I do not, Press. I mean, that would be something we need to look at before we
Yeah.
recommend it for coating.
Yeah, that's a
I
great
know we
idea.
do. I was going to say, I know we do have measurements on it. I believe, Charlie, and you can correct me. I think Russ went down there and took a look at it, kind of off the cusp. I know Richard's been down there a couple times, so I'm sure. And GHD is going to opine on it too in their report.
Okay, all right. Okay, Mike.
That's all I have. Richard, do you have anything you want to add?
No, that pretty much covers it. And just to reflect back on the idea of moving the wet well, it was more coming at it from a sense of safety and being out of the lane of traffic in regards to being able to service that station and clean it properly. So I just wanted to add that comment.
Sure.
And I'll just say one other thing in regards to our report. We still are producing excellent effluent quality. Our BOD was less than 2.4 with total suspended solids removal of near 100%. Our BOD removal at the plant is 99% for the month. And our total nitrogen is 3.6 with our effluent limitation of 8. So we are still producing excellent effluent quality this month as well. And with the colder temperatures, this is when most wastewater treatment plants struggle to meet their parameters. So we are still doing well in regards to the overall function of the facility.
That's
I
great.
have one question on the report, and this may be very, very, very stupid, so I apologize. The influent flow average is 0.5 million gallons, and the effluent flow average is 0.6. That's almost a 3 million gallon a month difference. That somehow seems illogical that an average could be that far off from the gazins and the gazouts.
As far as the average flow, my report shows 0.7 MGD for the influent and 0.75 for the effluent.
Well, I'm looking at the December. I'm looking at the December report. No, excuse me, November 21st, which was the first one in the packet. And then even in the the next one, yeah, that's still 1.7 million gallons a month difference.
You're talking about the sums, Tom?
Yeah.
Yeah. We just had the flow meters calibrated. It's something we can look into because even an average of the daily average is 50,000 off. So we'll look into that and try to figure out what's going on there.
It's a big change.
Yeah, it just seems odd. I mean, I know that we're dealing with two different accuracy instruments, but especially 3 million gallons seems like it's 20% of the flow.
Yeah, we'll definitely look into that.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions for Mike or Richard?
I think I know the answer to this. In the December report, yeah, I think we hold a lot of liquid before we lost or a lot of solids before we lost the filter press. So the reason why the increase in liquid hold, is that because we lost the filter press? Or sent it back to the county, I should say.
That is correct.
Yeah, because the cake hold number went way down and the liquid hold number went way back up.
Yeah, I was going to say, Rich ran the crap out of it, not to be a pun. Rich ran the crap out of that belt filter press before it left to draw down those digesters to make sure that they were as low as possible going into the harder season because of the pores on that porous asphalt being so tight and you having to clean them with the hot power washer.
And then the last question is on the effluent nutrient trends. I know that it fluctuates over time, but I noticed that from in December, it trended upwards. Is that just a typical trending error or accuracy, or is there something else going on that we should be concerned about?
So typically, as the air cools, or I'm sorry, as the temperatures cool off in the winter, the water temperature has steadily dropped, and so we have to make adjustments to the air to account for the denitrification process, which is where the majority of that nitrogen is coming from. So we have decreased our air because as the water cools, it holds on to more dissolved oxygen, and you need less dissolved, or you need no dissolved oxygen in order to complete that process. So we are making changes to decrease that back down.
Okay, so that follows through and what the Suez report said about the oxygen levels being too high in the trains.
Yeah, and we had discussed that before. As we don't have modulating valves, as the loadings change throughout the day, the DO demand changes in the different basins. So, but I mean, we can add chemical to reduce the nitrogen and phosphorus, but we're still well under our limits. So, I mean, we didn't adjust the chemicals to compensate.
And is there a reason? It seems like the oxygen ditch number 2 has been running higher than oxygen ditch number 1 for the last 2 months.
That's correct. That's because, again, goes to the lack of modulating valves. So as we adjust to try and balance that out, we're dealing with averages overall for our total nitrogen. So we're trying to continuously change and make small changes in order not to chase our tail and adversely affect the process.
Okay. Thank you.
I will say I did get a text to both Charlie and I from Vince, and he kind of confirmed that when Russ was down there, the wet well did look really good. For 3. I know that came out of left field.
Good news can come any way we want it to. That's good.
Yeah.
Yep.
And Vince, if you need to talk, just raise your hand and I can allow you to talk.
Any other questions for these gentlemen?
No, thank you.
All right. Mike and Richard, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a great day,
Thank
guys.
you.
All right, we're on to item 6, President's Report. The only thing I wanted to mention, I think you are all aware of it, but the conversion of the names on our deeds is in the process of happening. And Mike, I don't know if you want to mention where that stands at this point and when we hope to have that completed.
Sure, and I'll just give a brief update. We, following the MOU that was prepared and agreed to between the city and the DPW, my office took a first stab at preparing the deeds. These deeds go way back, so it was a process. But we have put together the deeds and the associated affidavits. They have since been forwarded over to Glenn for his review. And once once I've heard back from Glenn that everybody's in agreement, we can handle execution and recordation. But the ball is in Glenn's camp right now for review before we circle back for signatures.
Great, great. Mayor, this has been a long time coming, so if you would just mention to Glenn, we're interested in that, we'd be we'd appreciate it.
Yeah, Glenn shared them with Anne Marie and I yesterday. So we have, so obviously they need to be reviewed, but yes, we're moving on them.
Great. Appreciate that. Yeah, appreciate it very much. Okay, item 7, receive the general manager's report. Austin?
So we have been busy to say the least. So we have the Pilot Town Road project continues to move on. The services are continuing to get installed. There's still 2 other larger tie-ins that need to happen, one at New Road and I believe one at Queen Anne. If I misspeak, Vince, just correct me. Also, we're continuing to work on the O&M. Both Kim and I are working through that, and also the capital. We filled the assistant GM position, so we got Robin here. Robin brings a wealth of knowledge. Previous wastewater operator in Milton, previous water operator in Milton, still holds his master plumber's license and is well known within the city. He brings knowledge to us, so it's, you know, there's a learning curve that's still there coming from the building side to the utility side, but we're glad to have him. I think he's gonna be a great fit for us moving forward, and look forward to everything we get accomplished. Continue to work through EVs, working with Tim Richard on some locations, some equipment, some rate design, talking with Rhett on our side, on infrastructure, anything that needs to be updated. So that continues to move on. We are having tree trimming coming up. So we're having Asplin do some tree trimming throughout town. This is something that hasn't been done probably since I've been here at least. We've talked about doing it. When Rhett took over for Bob, I had a conversation with him, and one of the things that Darren always taught me is, you know, ask someone what keeps them up at night. And so for the reliability and safety of our men, that was one of the first things he had said. So we are having Asplin come in. They're going to start and do 2 circuits this year, and then hopefully next year we'll do 2 other circuits. They're going to do circuit 1 and 3, and they will be, I don't know how sporadic they will be. Hopefully they'll start next week. That's weather permitting. Go figure. We have a major snowstorm that is predicted for this weekend, so that may change a little bit. I encourage anybody that has questions, just reach out. We'll try and answer as best we can. Rhett is going to be kind of following them along every day just to make sure that they're doing what they need to do. He'll probably answer questions of any customers that may have any concerns or anything like that. Obviously, we'll work with Janet as well from the city side just to make sure that any of the city trees are taken care of. So, you know, there's going to be disruption. There's no doubt about it. We know that that's going to happen. We're just going to keep the line of communication open, and we're going to fill in any gaps that need to be filled in. So we encourage anybody to reach out if they need to reach out, whether it be to Sharon, myself, Rhett, Suzanne, Laura, etc. So that's a big project that we're working through.
Austin, so I guess Marty is still the tree person. Is that true, Mayor?
Yes, Marty is still the tree person.
So she's aware of this and knows, and it's coordinated. You've coordinated with Anne Marie, I guess.
Yeah, so I've coordinated with Janet. I actually reached out to Janet probably about 3 or 4 weeks ago. I gave her a map of the locations of where kind of they're gonna be. They're gonna start with Circuit 3, which is more of the beach side, and it kind of comes across and hits Pilot Town Reserve and so forth. Obviously, that's underground, so it's a little bit different, but that's the general focus area. And then Circuit 1's kind of going out Savannah Road. So that will be. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. No, I'm saying hopefully if anybody from the city, particularly Marty, she's the tree guru for the city. They've expressed their opinions to Austin.
Yeah. One of the things you might consider doing is defining a little bit Circuit 1 and 3 in an email, either an email blast or something, to the extent you can. I know you can't, it's hard to define it, but to the extent you can, people are never going to understand what Circuit 1 is or Circuit 3.
We thought about doing that. The only issue that we ran into is the questions, because obviously if we send something out and it's 35 miles of primary and a little bit of secondary, when are you going to be at my house? So we plan, as we kind of get a better understanding of how fast they're going to move, where exactly they're going to start on Circuit 3. we can kind of probably provide updates, and I'll kind of lean on Sharon a little bit for that. But we plan on doing that. I mean, we have our monthly meeting every Monday, our management meeting every Monday. So we'll get all of our updates. And like I said, Rhett's going to be out there with them probably maybe every day or every other day, just to make sure they know where they're at and there's no issues.
I saw your note today that it was helpful.
Thank you. That was all Sharon and Rhett. Both of those work together on that. We have the Savannah Road 16 homes. We've been waiting on the material to come in for the force main that will run in behind them. These are the properties that are adjacent to the high school and also that kind of lead up to our well field and right around our wells. So that work is scheduled to start obviously on Monday. Again, if we're getting the snow that's expected, I won't be surprised if that's delayed at all. We've notified all those homeowners, both by email and by letter. So we'll continue to keep them up to date as we're kind of up to date from our contractors. Tom and I can kind of tag team this one. So obviously we've been working on the battery project with Sergeant Lundy. We have gotten responses back from the vendors. It is a lot of information to digest, and we are working kind of hand in hand with Sergeant Lundy to decipher that information and create a matrix in which the board would be able to understand a little bit better than just as it is right now. It's a little complex, and so we're trying to kind of decipher it to a point where we can present it and you guys know what we're talking about. Tom, is that a good synopsis?
Yeah, I guess just to amplify on what Austin said, there were four bidders and there are 16 options. So we've kind of got a smattering of everything. And there was the base bid, and then we allowed the vendors to come back with alternatives because we really didn't know what the state of the art was. And as we've talked with all the vendors, we realized that there is no current state of the art. It's really a lot of technology in play, and they're all being very flexible to say, they'll work with us on whatever it is that we need. But we do have pricing and options. As I think we had talked about in prior meetings, when we got permission to go out for bids, I don't know that we're necessarily going to be able to make an award out of this round of bids. I think this round of bids with DMAC's assistant, Scott Lynch, has been phenomenal, is really about educating the BPW and DMAC on what is out there and what the pros and cons are of the various options. So at this point, we're hoping that by the February meeting, we'll be able to come back with this matrix that Austin talked about and educate everyone on where we're at and figure out what the consensus is going forward.
Thanks, Tom. That's great work. It sounds really complicated. Sounds like it's really complicated.
It's a good complicated though.
Yeah.
It's a good complicated.
Yeah, I mean it's and it's from a supply chains perspective, one of the real interesting things that came out is that many of these vendors have stockpiled batteries. So they are as anxious to get projects in the ground to prove for their future projects. But batteries are not going to be the limitation. Now, the support equipment may be, but they were smart enough to stockpile batteries for projects.
Are these in competition with the EV batteries?
Actually, they're some of the same manufacturers, but no, they're different batteries. But I mean, Tesla's supplying batteries, LG, Samsung. I mean, it's all the big battery manufacturers, but they're not identical. You can't go and rip one out of our battery pack and put them in your car press, if that's what you're asking.
Okay. I was wondering.
I will let Josh give an IT update, and then I will have Kim do quarterly financials.
Thank you, Austin.
Yep.
Let me get to my notes. Just a few items. First, a quick follow-up item with the gas boy, the pumps. So over the holidays, the holiday schedules kind of set things back a little bit with scheduling the install. But we did finalize the vehicle file to send over to Gas Boy to finish setting up the portal. We're coordinating with Fuel System Services to do the actual install. I'm hoping, and it's very promising, within the next 2 weeks, we should have the new pumps installed. Second topic would be, we did upgrade the electric meter tester computer just recently. The old software was end of life, and so we worked with the manufacturer Megger to provide the replacement software. So we went ahead and we've installed that, and now we are coordinating with Rhett to do the overview for the operations. And then he'll go ahead and he'll coordinate with the calibration company to certify the new meter, or the meter with the new software. And then lastly, we had a little bit of service disruption Sunday night into Monday morning. Our primary firewall had a hard drive failure, hardware failure, and so I worked with the manufacturer of Barracuda, and they were able to overnight the replacement hardware. But in the meantime, what we did was we have put a secondary unit in place to resume operations. So we were able to resume normal operations by 9 a.m. Monday, or I'm sorry, 11 a.m. Monday, and with minimal sacrifice. So we will be I do have the new item, or the new replacement unit, sitting just inches from me. I'm going to have that installed in the next regularly scheduled service window, which would be this Saturday. Those are the highlights.
Well, that was great work getting us back online. Thank you.
Yeah, just for the record, it wasn't like an attack or anything. It was just hardware failure. The unit had been in place and in service for about 6 years, 5 years. I mean, we literally just renewed the contract for an additional 3 years. And now we have brand new hardware for the next 3 years. So I think we'll be in good shape for a little while.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Josh. Kim, floor is yours.
Okay, I'm just going to be going over the Q3 financials. It is from October 1st to December 31st. It's going to be mixed with good news and bad news. So here we go. Compared to last year, our revenues are down and our expenses are up, and our total income has decreased by 76%. However, looking at the budget, we are above budget. We are budgeted to have an operating loss, but we had revenue, and we are 834% over budgeted. And I will say, with our 76% decrease in total income, about 515,000 of it was change in market value. So that's not something that we can control. And our large variances is compared to budget. Line 6 is our revenue other. That is all of our developments, and we do have the Lewis Brewery coming on. Line 12 is our repairs and maintenance. We repaired the 8-inch main Pilot Town Road. We have chemical purchases that were higher for water and sewer. Our sludge hauling and after hours were up, And we also replaced a hydraulic motor for the drying bed brush. Line 13, professional and contractual services. Our attorney fees are up. Our water main assessment, website work. We had a cleaning of the EQ tank. We had a wrong locate for Big Oyster, so we had to do an excavation all over again. The wastewater pump station assessment is new, and the wastewater treatment plant QA and QC with GMB. Line 16, bad debt. Good news. We only had 1419 that we wrote off this quarter. Line 23, interest expense. We made our first Jones Farm payment, which was not included in our original budget. Line 25, we sold some old phones. So we did make a little bit of money there. Our grant revenue came in for our asset management. And our change in market value, we actually lost for the quarter, over $18,000. And then just other notes for line 4 for industrial water, just counting SPI, we're already over budget. So that's just been really off in our financials. The Board of Public Works, we've been using water to clean the filters down at the wastewater treatment plant. Our wages and salaries have been lower for compared to quarter 1 and quarter 2, and same with administrative costs.
The one question I have is on both the quarter 3 and even the last year, full year, it seems like our water revenues are way over up from what was budgeted. Is there a reason that we can't understand?
Well, compared to last year, our industrial is pretty much right on with last year. And it says that there's a almost a 73% increase in water for budgeted, but it's really only $1,300 that the difference is. And then of course our revenue other, it's been ramping up with Tower Hill and Lewis Waterfront Preserve.
Yeah, I was excluding others, looking at strictly, we're up 12% residential, 38% industrial, 73%, well, municipal is next to nothing. But I mean, the two large items, and it's not just the third quarter, it's the year to date or the total year also, or the year to date. And I guess maybe it was just bad budgeting or.
Well, I was going to say, we did have a couple developments coming. Harbor Point started to come online. They're getting to the point where they're almost fully built out. I will say that I think that irrigation, because we stayed a little bit warmer this year compared to last year, I think irrigation had an impact. We're still discussing on how we can pull irrigation out so we can see that separately to see what the impact is on the water. Since it's combined, because it's pulling out of the same, it's pulling out of water meter sales. And I really do. I mean, SPI is still on track. The high school's back in session, so that's full. And that was one of the tough things I know when Darren was doing budgeting, is that how do you predict if the high school, if there was going to be any disruption in high school usage because of COVID. So it's a tough budgeting. I mean, even when Kim and I sit down now and we're trying to budget for next year, there's some things that it's tough to come up with a number that you feel not so much confident with, that you can kind of have an 8 ball that kind of tells you what you think it's going to be.
And Darren also said that when he did the budget, he would rather be lower with the revenue than over budget. And it looks like we're losing money.
I think the last 2 years have been hard to gauge in general. I've been surprised and disappointed, on different lines at different times. I think as you guys look at putting together that budget for next year, I think having a conversation with the board around the ins and outs, because at the end of the day, we all own this. And I think having some input and having other eyes look at it is the right thing to do. It's something we can have in the finance committee when that's up and running as well. But I think getting us in on that conversation is something that would help us all, candidly.
So for this
And-
year for the O&M, I did start a spreadsheet showing charges for the past 2 years, broken down like what actually goes into professional and contractual services. And so everyone can see exactly what goes in there. And me and Austin are making our best guess, but you'll have more information to have better input as well.
But even the school being in or out, that's something we can all kind of opine on and give thoughts and perspective. So you're not in this boat by yourself. You've got us in the boat with you, right or wrong. And I think the more input we get, probably the better we can work our way through this.
And that's fine. I mean, Kim and I are fingers crossed going to finish everything up going probably by the end of this week. And we'd be more than happy to have you guys come in, whether it be individually or two of you at a time, to take a look at it. And then obviously in February, we're going to present this to you. And during that time, you can ask any questions you want. We'll try and answer them the best we can. And if we can't get you the answer to them, we're going to get you the answer before March.
And look, the unknowns are unknowns, right? With COVID and restaurants and schools. And I mean, there is a lot of unknowns. And I think being conservative is clearly the right way to go with these unknowns, which obviously Darren was in that school of thought as well. So look forward to hearing back from you guys and kind of going through it in an appropriate way.
Yeah, and that wasn't, what I said wasn't criticism at all. I recognize no one can predict the weather, the rain, pandemics. That's fine. It just stuck out that the electric is almost dead on and the water is off. And I was trying to understand because the high school was down, so thereby their electric was down also, and it didn't seem to, correlate between the two. So,
I think
anyway,
breaking the irrigation out would be really interesting too. I think, because I know working with water companies in the past, the summer is their Christmas season. That's when they make all their money or lose their money. So it'd be interesting to see, and that's heavily weather based, of course. So that's probably a big thing.
I do put the irrigation numbers on the monthly, but I can start putting them on all the
That'd be
financials.
good. That would be good.
And also, I think as we start to pile in on the expenses for next year, as well as it relates to water, I think getting everyone in the boat with that aspect as well, because we have a lot of costs coming at us with different things we've got planned. We need to make sure that we understand the impact of that on water and cost as well. And I'm not telling you anything you don't know. I'm just saying what the obvious statement is.
yeah, the only thing that's difficult with irrigation is that, and Austin, maybe what's the percentage of houses that have irrigation meters?
That percentage is going higher and higher. I think what happens is a lot of times on the newer developments, especially the larger homes that are putting sod down, they're automatically getting irrigation put in. They may not, or they may decide to keep that through their regular water bill or their water meter until they get their bill for their sewer. And then they kind of decide that they're going to not do that because 50,000 gallons of irrigation through your regular meter and you throw it in your irrigation probably gives somebody a heart attack.
Right.
It's a lot higher though, Tom. I will say that. There's still
Okay.
some out there, but there's a lot more that are on irrigation and not having the tie-in past the meter.
Okay, that's good to hear.
All right, Austin, are you anything else?
I think that's it. Sharon, do you have anything on website or anything like that?
I've
Yeah,
heard good
I'm good.
comments. I've heard good comments about the website, that people are glad that it's out there.
Good.
and the Facebook. So,
Good.
Okay, we're into presentations, and it's item 8, presentation for the Delaware Sustainable Energy Utility. And we have Tony DePrima, I think.
Josh,
to
can you bring
present.
those Tony and Joe in?
Hello, everybody.
Hey, Tony.
How we
Hey.
doing?
How are you?
Preston, good to see you. Mayor, good to see you again.
Good to see you,
Hello,
Tony.
everybody.
Tony, did you want to present from your screen?
That would work for me if you'd like. Is Joe on yet?
Yes, Joe's on there.
Yeah, if I have the screen share function, I can do that.
Josh, can you allow Tony to share screen?
I think I can do it already, actually.
It helps when I unmute myself. Yes, he should be able to.
All right. So first, before we start, it's great to be here in front of you guys. I think I've presented before years ago. I do want to introduce Joe Janello. So Joe is with Franklin Energy. They are one of our major subcontractors, and they actually run our Home Performance with Energy Star program. And Joe's here to help answer any questions or chime in whenever he would like. But I'll do the major presentation. But again, I just wanted to thank you all for letting us do this presentation and proposal. So let me try my share screen. All right, so again, thanks again. And I do want to note the key word in here is an extension of the program. We've actually been running this program for 4 years now with Lewis. Many of you probably know that. And if we go to the next slide, so just from a flow chart, this is really an enhancement of an existing program that we run throughout Delaware. It's our Home Performance with Energy Star program, as well as our Home Energy Checkup, or our Home Checkup and Counseling program. So I'm going to be talking about 2 programs here briefly, but this is an enhancement program. The idea here, and working with Darren from the very beginning, was to create greater savings and greater participation in this program than we would do without it. And the other idea is that it's a way of us sharing our energy savings earned through the program back to the municipal utility. And the municipal utility, in turn, you can see on the top line, some of the incentive money from the program is flowing back to your customers. And as I recall, when we first did that, that line of incentive money flowing back to the customers, that money is actually coming from your green energy system benefit charge. That's the way I believe Darren had set it up from the beginning. So that's where these funds that you've been paying into it are coming from. Next slide, please. So again, we have been doing this program in Lewis since 2018. Since then, we've done about 88 home assessments. We've done 70 home energy improvement projects. So the ratio between home audits and actual people moving on to improvement projects is high. Overall of the incentives paid was $142,482. That's not all Lewis money. That's mostly our money and some Lewis money. And then the lifetime energy savings are almost $3 million in energy. Oh, that's KWH. There shouldn't be a dollar sign there, but it's $3 million KWH there in savings. And again, those savings are shared between us. Next slide.
So what is the incentives then to come back into Lewis on this?
So I think we'll answer those questions as we go through.
Okay, thanks.
So maybe this will answer your question. So what are the key benefits for Lewis to extend this program? And these are basically the benefits why Lewis signed on in the first place. Again, it's supportive of Lewis's energy savings goals. At the time, This was before you were in the program with DMAC. So Darren was searching out different ways to credit energy savings to Lewis, and he felt this was probably one of the more cost-effective ways to do that. And so it's also cost-effective for your citizens. The idea here is to get more Lewis citizens participating in the program than they would without the shared savings program. It's very positive customer engagement. So this is a program where somebody one-on-one meets with your customers, does a home energy assessment, gives them advice, leads them towards the rebates and the direct install measures. And then this is also was seen as cross-marketing opportunities, complementary to other BPW programs and services. So I think that was the perspective at the time that this was started. And of course, you know, we have benefits too. So the next slide just talks about what are the benefits for us. So A, we're looking to increase delivery of savings to more Delawareans. We were looking to diversify our funding. And then again, this always provides cross-marketing for our other programs. So this is a way for us, when we're engaged with your customers, we're talking about other availability of other programs. So next slide. So let me just, again, refresh everybody's memory on how home performance with Energy Star works. It starts, once the customer is interested, it starts with performing a home energy assessment. That cost to the customer is $50. Our organization pays about $350 towards that. None of Lewis's money goes towards the actual cost to do the assessment. When the assessor comes to the home, he offers what we call direct install measures, DIMS. Typically, that's LED lights. It could be pipe wrap. It could be low flow shower heads. But there are installed measures that are given to the customer at no charge. So they're just installed. They're not given to them. The assessor has to install them. Then what we call a trade ally, but there are participating contractors. If the assessment recommends changes, let's say a new HVAC system, then your customer can contact one of our contractors. They do all the recommended work, and then that work then can qualify for actual cash rebates. And all in, it's about $7,500 in rebates if you did everything possible in the home. So that's basically how it works. Next slide, please. So what are the direct install measures? The top 4 bullets. So mostly we're installing faucet aerators, low flow shower heads, various LEDs, and energy efficiency power strips. I think we also are offering at a discount smart thermostats. Now the measures, the actual rebate measures, are typically HVAC replacements up to 50% of the cost of our cap, insulation up to $1,600, hot water heaters 50% of the cost cap, and then air sealing up to about $1,100. So those are sort of typical things that your customers would be getting. Next slide. So the other program we offer is the Home Energy Checkup and Counseling Program. This is a program really geared towards low and moderate income folks because it involves a free energy assessment, but it's a light energy assessment. So they don't do a half-day assessment. That's how long it typically takes for a home energy assessment. They will go over energy bills with the customer. They'll review the home. They'll look at things that could be done to improve energy. They will also install the direct install measures. They'll make recommendations for energy savings. They'll provide some energy education. And the biggest part of this service is referring them to agencies who may be able to help them in other ways. So that's Home Energy Checkup. So those are the 2 programs. Next slide. So the key here, and what makes this truly an assessment, is that it's is marketing and communications. So generally what we do is we co-brand web assets on Energize Delaware site. So we'll market the program on our site. you would market the program on your website, articles in town newsletters or in e-newsletters, billing inserts you would put in about the program. We would come and do visibility at town public buildings, kiosks. We'd come and do events, educational events, seminars, group meetings, however the town would want it. And then we would be cross-promotional with programs, both city programs and public works programs. So the idea here from the beginning was, let's increase the average amount of customers using the program. The Board of Public Works would in turn help with some of the increased cost of the program, but in turn, we would credit them back the energy savings. Now, I will tell you that when we started in 2018, we had a pretty aggressive marketing plan, but it really never came to the fruition that we would have liked. It never really rolled out in billing inserts or newsletters. It just never really happened well. And then COVID came along, and that really had also, at least for the past 2 years, really shut down a lot of the potential marketing. And if we're going to go into this extension again, I understand and you know, talking with Austin, that there is more capability now and understanding about how they can help us or help we all co-promote this program in Lewis. So this is key. Next slide. So this is the way the actual savings work. And let me tell you that Lewis was our pilot program. I actually cannot remember for the life of me how we got started. I'm not sure if Darren approached us or we approached Darren, but there was an expressed interest. And so we piloted a program with Lewis, which was great for us. And we gave you a really sweet deal, if you will, to help us along form this program. As a result of your piloting, we then signed on the Delaware Electric Co-op. So they are participating in a big way in this program. They are aggressively helping us market the program, and we've seen a huge increase in customers in the co-op participate. And so what I'm showing you here in cost and savings and incentive cost to Lewis is exactly what we're doing with the co-op. So the first box, the orange box, is just the assessment. This is someone going to the house. In that scenario, 100% of the DIMMs, so the light bulbs are installed, you guys, we would actually bill you for the cost of the installed light bulb, but we don't bill you for the assessment and we don't bill you the labor. You're paying the material cost of the bulb. What you're also getting back is we're crediting back to you 100% of the deemed energy savings. So the next blue box is the actual home performance program. This is where somebody installs an HVAC system or a let's say an installation program or weather stripping. So in this one, Lewis pays 100% of the incentives up to $500. After $500, we pick up the cost. And then you get 50% of the total energy savings are credited to Lewis. Now, what we know in this sharing here is that in reality, the co-op, which has the same formula, they're getting about 60% of the savings and only shouldering about 40% of the cost of the program. And then the light blue box is our home energy checkup program. And again, that's just the install of the direct measures. Lewis pays 100% of the material cost of the direct install, the faucet, aerators, the light bulbs, the weather strip, the pipe wraps. Next slide.
Just a quick question, Tony. So
Yeah.
when you just mentioned for the incentives, 100% of the cost is bared by the BPW in that aspect. You had mentioned aerators and low flow fixtures. So we would be paying for those, but we don't necessarily receive any sort of credit for that because that's on the water side, not on the electric.
Yeah, we don't credit energy savings. So we you know, other than hot water, you know, if you have hot water, if you have an electric hot water heater. So yeah, there are definitely some savings here in the area of water conservation and even natural gas savings that Well, I think, and Joe can correct me, I think if there's any natural gas savings, you get credited towards those too.
Yeah, that's correct, Tony.
Yeah, so you get credited for any natural gas savings and you get credited for electric savings, but you're correct, not water savings.
So we would still, in this instance, so like when you do like low flow or aerators or anything like that, it's still being billed as a BPW initiative and we would be paying for it, but we would only be receiving the credit for the electric or natural gas savings.
Yeah. Now that's
Okay.
something we can certainly discuss, right? Because you do have a water company. And I would imagine we can set this up if you said, hey, we appreciate you conserving water, but we don't want to be involved or have to pay for any aerators. I'm sure we can work with you on that.
Okay. Here, I'll go next slide.
Next slide.
You want next one after this?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. This is the next slide. You changed on me. All right. So what we thought we would do is give you a sense of what would this cost you for a year. And so we modeled it based on last year's Lewis's participation. So keep in mind, everything's been a little slower because of COVID. You just had a long conversation about that. But if we modeled the program under the current incentive plan, it would be just shy of $16,000 a year that Lewis would pay. And I assume it's still out of your system, green energy system benefit charge. If we do better, and I would like to do better, and if we have the marketing as we planned or hoped, you know, I think you can increase that amount by maybe an additional $5,000 to $7,000. So that's really the nut that we're talking about in terms of cost to you guys. Next slide, if there is one, that may be the end. Oh, okay, let's go back to that one, and then I'll just take questions on anything here. Our proposal to you, which I submitted to Darren, I'm not sure whether that got forwarded to the whole board, but we'd like to renew this this proposal for 3 years. Of course, that's always up to you guys. I think it was originally a 2-year pilot program, and so that's our proposal right now.
I think the original wasn't the original. It was X amount of time or 22,000 not to exceed.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, you're right. Thanks for reminding me. So what I believe what Lewis did at the time is you budgeted so much money and you've been working off of that budget. So again, however the BPW, if you want to extend this program, you know, however we want to craft the terms or the caps, that would be fine with us. Again, and the goal here is really customer service and advising your customers and letting your customers know of a program more so than they would without it. It's just enhanced marketing brings enhanced participation.
Now,
One,
oh, go ahead, Tom. Go ahead.
wait, the one question I had is that how much low-hanging fruit is still out there? And what I mean by that is that, you know, installing LED bulbs isn't, I mean, what is the percentage of incandescent bulbs still out there being used? Or have we really kind of cracked that nut mostly?
So I'm going to let Joe answer that, but I will tell you, I just want to be really clear. We would not give a replacement bulb unless there was an incandescent bulb out there. So I do believe over time, we're all going to see less and less bulbs installed, but I just want to make it really clear that we don't replace, I don't believe we will replace fluorescent bulbs, but Joe can clarify on that.
So the direct install measures, the LED lights are installed when the assessment is done. A typical installation is somewhere between 20 and 25 LEDs. And about 61% of the time we do an assessment, the direct install measures are being installed. So while the LEDs have been around for a little while, there are still a good number of incandescent lamps out there, especially in downlighting and things of that nature.
I'm kind of surprised at that. I mean, because, you know, compact fluorescents have been around for a long time now, and I would have thought that most of the market was, but I mean, if you're saying it's 61%, that's a fairly high number.
I know when we did our house and we weren't here all the time, we came back and most of the light fixtures were in, and I commented that they weren't efficient light bulbs. And the guy said to me, if I did all efficient light bulbs, I'd never get a contract. And so we obviously changed that his mind on that, but that I was surprised to hear that when we were putting in our house, and that wasn't that long ago.
Wow.
I'm not sure what you meant by that. You wouldn't get a contract? Is that what you said?
He said if he used the more expensive light bulbs, that he wouldn't get as many contracts to do houses because he was doing it through builders. So he was using the less efficient light bulbs.
So that wasn't our program. You weren't participating.
No. This
Oh,
was
okay,
just,
I got it.
it's an example where someone's putting in low quality bulbs.
Oh, yeah.
I wouldn't expect anybody to be doing that.
Yeah, it's the lowest cost item they can find.
You know, it's funny. I got to tell you this quick story. So a number of years ago, we were giving incentives for new construction that met certain green energy standards. So on our very first house, it was out in Kent County. It was a brand new house, and this house met all these standards. And we go out there to give one of these big checks to the person and congratulate them. And when we go in the house, it was the same thing you just experienced. They were all incandescent bulbs because the builders aren't putting the expensive bulbs in the houses.
Tony, just a quick question. So in terms of the utilities participating, you had said Delaware Electric Co-op and ourselves. Are there any others within the state that are participating?
So Delmarva is not participating, so that's the other big utility. And you're the only DMAC community so far. I've had interest from other ones. You know, quite frankly, you were a pilot, then we stood up the co-op, and then we kind of stopped marketing this through COVID. So, we wanted to first get you guys back on board. I hope you'll do that. And once we're done with that, we do have another municipality that's interested.
So then how do you decipher, like on this where it has customers per project, how do you decipher who a Lewis BPW customer is versus a Delaware Electric Co-op customer?
Oh, so, well, first off, every home energy assessment, I should tell you, includes a bill analysis. So, which is a really handy thing. I mean, we're actually going to go through 12 months of your customers' bills. So we know exactly who the utility is, and that gets logged into the system. Joe, you want to?
You have it exactly right, Tony. Yeah. We confirm the utility, electric and gas utility at the time of the assessment.
Yeah, so then we just sort by utility.
It's also worth noting, guys, that DESCU or Franklin did not deliver these services. These are all done through Trade Allies. Those are independent companies, HVAC, insulation companies, things like that sign a participation agreement with DESCU. And so these are all contractors from your town, as well as serving customers from your town.
So I think if I can remember when this was discussed, I can't remember if it was up at DMEC or not. There was a discussion of contractors that were in the lack of contractors when this program had kicked off in, say, like Milford. Has that changed to that? I guess my question is this program also offered, even though like the communities aren't participating? So like if Milford if there's a resident in Milford who was served by Milford, could they call and still participate in this program?
It's open to all Delawareans, and anyone in Delaware can participate. And we have something around 85 participating Trade Allies right now.
So then if you were to do, and I'm kind of learning and adjusting since this was kind of Darren's baby, but if you had a customer from Milford that did this, you report the savings as Milford savings?
Oh, no, they're reported as sustainable energy utility savings.
Okay.
Right. The other thing, Darren, you had asked me and I wanted to touch on is you had asked, well, are these savings guaranteed, right? And the answer is no, because this is really a pay for performance system. we're only billing you after the measures installed, right? So you're only getting, we're guaranteeing the savings because they're installed. We know they're there. And all of the savings that we claimed have been deemed appropriate through the Energy Efficiency Advisory Council. So all of our savings are deemed savings. So for every light bulb we replace, depending on what you replace it with, you get deemed savings. Those are real savings. We don't have to guarantee anything. Those are actual savings because you don't pay till after the fact.
I think it was more of like, are there guaranteed measures within the program? Like, for example, in the 3 years that you do the program, is there let's just say a measure of we're going to do 50 assessments or projects in every year, or anything along those terms that kind of, I guess, put a benchmark to what would be accomplished?
Well, we certainly have performance benchmarks for all of our contractors, and Franklin Energy is one of probably 10 or 12 contractors that we have. Because as you guys know, we run about 20 programs across the state. This is our signature program. It's our single largest program. But yeah, for every one of our contractors, we have goals that we set, and we hope that we make them. You know, for Lewis, I mean, you can see that it looks like we hit 26 customers. I mean, if you feel comfortable saying, hey, we'd like to see some performance here, like, let's try to go for at least doubling that, or, you know, let's go for 40 customers. We work with you if you want to try set goals for success.
Look, I
Tony,
know it's
you know-
the middle of the board, but one thing that comes to my mind, I'd rather spend twice as much on the LMI, right?
AMI.
No, LMI, which is
Yeah,
the
low mod income.
yeah, low income people. I'd rather spend twice as much on that factor than to give, you know, Earl and Christy Webb, you know, a new HVAC or whatever it is that they would qualify for. I think needs based is important. There are certain people that need this, and I'd rather, if we're going to do it, invest in more in that than in some of the things that I think could happen on the other end of it. That's just my personal perspective.
So let's talk about how that might work then to get to that goal. You know, we pick up a good share of those costs because that's mostly paying for an individual to go to a home and do the counseling, and then you guys are picking up the install. But if that was an important goal for you all, then we would adjust our marketing plan to understand where the LMI populations are in your community and really target those folks, whether through door-to-door, you know, mailings, events in the community. You know, let's boost the marketing so that those people learn about the program and take advantage of it more. And we should. Yeah, and then I didn't talk. I do want to point out for the LMI community, within the home performance program, and I didn't break this out, we actually do have something called assisted home performance. And it's for those folks who are slightly above like the lowest income level where you can qualify for weatherization. And in that program, it's cheaper. It's, how do I put this? The cost of the audit is even less. I think it might be $25. And the amount of rebates they get is higher.
Correct.
So if you're a higher low income person or a moderate income person, you're actually going to get greater rebates for that program. So we do have one. I didn't really dwell on it, but it is out there. So once the homeowner is met with and their income's qualified, we then say where they're going to go. The beauty of the checkup program is we get to identify right away if this is a potential weatherization program that we turn over to the state of Delaware. And then if they need added, so this goes to other programs, we run something called pre-weatherization for low-income folks. Lots of times what's happening is there's a low-income person, they need weatherization, they qualify, but they have a hole in their roof. And because they have a hole in the roof, the federal dollars can't go to it. They won't fix the hole in the roof. We come in with a program, we fix the roof, and then we send them the weatherization. So This is a great program to feed people to other supportive programs that are out there for that population.
Tony, this has been going on for several years now, but I haven't seen any evidence of it other than maybe initially we had some mailers or something. But for the past few years, I know the past couple have been very difficult. But as far as things that we talked about earlier, co-branding web assets, it says articles in town newsletters and so forth, inserts, visibility at town meetings, cross promotion through complementary city, you have city, but it's BPW programs. I don't think I've seen any of that or have talked to anybody that's mentioned this program.
Right. So,
So
Preston,
how
as
do
I
we,
said earlier,
do we anticipate getting more of that?
that's going to be a function of the partnership. And so, as I understand in talking to Austin, that kind of fell out flat on its face last time when we started this. I don't think there was much of a website. The person who was in charge of billing we kept trying to set up meetings with people and it just never happened. We wanted to come out to town hall and have some, and we just never got the partnership happening. In talking with Austin, I think he has renewed confidence in some of his staff. It sounds like you've got a new website that's coming along. I think, honestly, I think part of what you're saying, Preston, is because we just never got the marketing support that we had hoped for from the BPW, and then COVID came along.
And I noticed most of your literature says the city of Lewis, and I know they're interested in this too, but we're the primary player with
Right.
you on this. So we should make sure that that's the credit that's getting for the energy savings.
Right.
Because all your literature says city of Lewis. It doesn't mention BPW.
Yeah, I gotta check that because at least in the PowerPoint, I know we fixed a lot of that. But
Okay. No,
if you
I'm
go to
looking
the
at some old
slide-
stuff.
Yeah, I mean, if you go to, I think
Yeah.
the key benefits slide, you'll actually see the flyer that we put together it was a brochure. I mean, we actually went out and designed and printed up a brochure. And you can see that the Lewis BPW is mentioned on the top right. I don't know which slide it is, but it's probably slide 4 or 5. So you can see there's an example of the collateral that we developed, but it never got put out. And you can see right on the front, on the top right, it's got your logo, and then in the bottom, we talk in the blue on the bottom, it talks about Lewis BPW.
Oh, I have it here. I have it here.
Yeah.
Is this what you're talking about?
We still have them in the office.
Yeah.
It's, like I said, everything, COVID hit and all that. The only thing that we'll need if the will of the board is to move forward with this is there will need to be kind of a structured outreach on this. The reason being is because we are already participating in Efficiency Smart. So I don't want to blur the lines and have our bill print or basically most of the time, I'm going to say, Sharon, you can correct me, every other bill to almost every bill, Efficiency Smart provides a bill print message, and then also like the 99-cent LED programs that we're doing with them at the Chamber of Commerce, and the rebate programs that they do. So they're just, I don't want to muddle the water in a way. So there will need to be some planning if that is the way we go.
When does our contract with Energy Smart end?
Efficiency Smart?
Efficiency Smart, yeah.
I believe we have I'd have to double check. I
It's
believe
5
there's-
years, I remember. Is that
It's either 3 or 5.
okay? Well, if it was 3, which would probably be over, but 5, I remember 5, but my memory's not that great. So we had to check that too, because that was very expensive, as I remember. It was like $250,000.
Yeah, still, yeah. And
think
that, I believe we still have the contract on that, and I think it ends the end of this year, or pretty close to the end of the year.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Tony. And
You're
Joe,
very welcome.
we
And,
appreciate it.
What happens from here? I'm just curious.
Well, I guess we'll have to discuss it and decide how we want to move forward after we talk to
All right.
Austin and get everything put together.
Will that be at the
And-
next meeting, or you'll probably do that later today?
I think that'd be next meeting.
Okay, perfect.
I don't think Austin's ready to.
And I think I think it fits in for the future meetings because we'll also talk about strategic planning. And this I think falls full-heartedly into that.
All right, well, thank you very much. We've enjoyed working in Lewis. I think the only other thing we need to talk about, Austin, is we are actually still running this program because, you know, the contract was up and we kept just running it. We'll need to know from you whether we just keep running it as is under the old contract or you want us to stop. So
I would say that if we hit the cap of 22, I would probably pause it because that's what the original agreement was.
Right. Very good. All right.
Thank you
Thanks,
both.
everybody.
Thank you.
Right.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
On to item 9, open forum, general discussion of bypass pump and dewatering dumpster and approval to order. Austin.
All right, so I may confuse everybody on this. So originally my plan was to come for the dewatering dumpster and the bypass pump, obviously for many reasons. Pump station 4 and what happened in August was the primary one so that we would have one on site, not have to worry about a rental and everything that entails a rental. With that and our conversation today with GMB and Inframark, I may switch some things around. Included in the emergency funding for the Headworks project, we did discuss having bypass materials in place, and that would be included in that funding. And because of the urgency of possibly on lift station 3, what I may do is focus more on lift station 3 and throw the bypass pump because I'm guessing the lead time on that is going to be lengthy. And to put capital expenditure out for that now, while we have another item that we need to focus on, may be better.
So what are you asking?
Well, I didn't get the Hills proposal for the pumps until after the agenda was posted. So I think my charge forward is to pause on the bypass pump and include that in the emergency funding that was already a part of that scope, and focus more on the pumps at pump station 3.
So you want to hold up on this then? Is that what you're?
Yeah.
So
Just because of the capital expenditure here, I mean, you're talking, it's going to be pretty close. I mean, you're talking a $72,000 job and a $70,000 between the dewatering dumpster and the bypass pump. I'm open to any suggestion on your guys' end, but I want to focus on kind of the priority here, and I'm more intrigued with pump station 3 than I am with the bypass pump at this point in time.
Well,
think it's
the
your-
only question is that I thought we were buying the pump because of the savings over the rental fees.
Well, we are. It's just a matter of it kind of changes so originally I visioned the pump station 3 work and the pump station 4 work and anything at pump station 8 would be included in the emergency funding. The issue is that we've kind of pushed pump station 3 ahead because if that's all one package, we don't know when that will be done and going out to bid. And I don't know if this can necessarily wait. So my idea is instead of expanding the capital for that, if we can include that in the first part of the emergency funding, meaning the bypass pump and the dewatering dumpster, and then focus on pump station 3 now and kind of just switch up how we're going to be spending our money. I mean, obviously we have a lot of capital expenditures coming down the line. And this is more of a risk mitigation. In my eyes, I just don't want anything to happen at that pump station. And I can do them both at the same time. It's just, again, we do have a lot of capital expenses going up. I don't want to just run us dry and purchase these items without some thought.
I know, Austin, last month you had answered the question relative to how long it would take to pay back the capital costs versus the monthly rental. But I don't remember what that was.
So the dewatering dumpster, actually, I'll tell you, it's actually in here.
Yes, it's great to preserve capital, but if we're expending O and M, we need to look at what the payback period is.
So the dewatering dumpster is $1,938.67 a month. We can purchase the same one that's there for 11,000. So it's about 5 months, a little bit less than 5 months. And I can do that one. The pump is a little bit different because you're talking about the pump and all the equipment that comes with the pump. That's a $63,000 purchase.
And how much are we paying for the pump that we're renting right now?
$1,465.
And that's a month?
Yes. Based off the numbers on the Infomark report.
And what did you say the cost would be if we purchased one?
About 63 with all the apparatuses that come with it. Bypass pump. Now, again, I just want to make sure that this is per month because I don't know if there's any lag here. In November, the bypass pump was $47.60, but I don't know if that's multiple months thrown in there. And I can confirm that. It's just every time I try and plan this out, and that's the only thing is that I came to you, I was going to purchase this, and I got the quote for Pump Station 3. So in my mind, do we switch kind of where the priority goes and throw this into that and have that be part one of that project is purchasing those materials? I'm open to either. I'm just kind of a little bit more conservative on the capital side because we have a lot of projects going on.
I'd be surprised if the $6,300 or $63,000 unit rents for 1,465 a month. That's a 43-month payback just on that. So I assume that 1,465 is maybe not correct.
It's probably closer to the 4 number.
I agree. A 4-year payback does not seem like that's what a rental would go for.
Yeah. It seems like the payback on the $11,000 is very easy, and I would assume the math is going to be easy on the other one as well, because I assume it's not the 1,465.
Right.
Again, I was just being more conservative. I can do either one.
Yeah.
Austin, it sounds like your original proposal presentation is a heightened concern about lift station 3.
Correct.
And that is driving your judgment in that direction as a prudent measure. Does that make sense?
So one of the things, yes. One of the things that I asked at today's meeting was one, lead time on the pumps, just so that I have an idea of what they are. And then also about looking at 2 other options. And that's what we discussed today. And GMB facilitated those discussions to look at those different options, whether they be submersible on-clogs or if they were just a different manufacturer. One of the other things is that the quote that was provided was a little bit later. So that discussion happened back in October. Originally, it was on the October report. It was provided to me last week. And so I don't know if those prices are the same. And that also is if you're going to do that work, do you put the bypass in place, similar to what we have in 4? So that kind of can snowball similar to how the Headworks project has snowballed, where we started with replacement of a live patcher and it's kind of, mauled into this huge overhaul at the Headworks. My only concern is that you're fighting both the cost perspective and the time perspective with the emergency funding piece of this, because if we do have to get the approval through DMEC or through DENREC, that review process may take a while. and also the lead time on the pumps and so forth. So, like I said, I'm just being a little bit more conservative. My goal today was to come here and just get the approval to order everything so that we can, one, cut monthly expenses down and own the asset itself. But then I also have a reserve side of me, and it's kind of like, you know, the angel on one side, on the devil on the other side. And like I said, I just remain a little bit apprehensive for Pump Station 3.
And there's
It's
also
taken priority.
the weight of timing that's playing into Station 3
Correct.
higher than perhaps leaving it just kind of lag along an ordinary process.
Yeah, and that's my only fear with, and like I said, if you include it in the project with the emergency funding, I tend to think that everything that's quoted in that project material-wise would be ordered at one time, and the contractor would start when the material arrived. Now, it can be specified in any way in the bid because you're just talking about mobilization costs at that point. But we have to get to the point where that project would actually go out to bid. So if that's not going to happen and we want to pull that out for an emergency purpose, does that shift our priority on the bypass pump and the dewatering dumpster? That's kind of how my thought process was coming into this.
Austin, we have the United Rental pump still there at 4, and that's been there. That's what we're talking about. How about the Godwin pump? That's still not at the treatment plant, is it? That's been returned.
Correct.
Because it was there for a while.
Correct.
Well, I understand, you know, once again, preserving the capital accounts, the reserves. It doesn't seem like, I mean, this is not a lot of money, and the O&M payback, you know, it's not like we're talking about AMI here, we're talking about $1 million. You know, this is a relatively small sum of money, and it seems like the payback period would kind of lean in favor of it. And especially, it's going to take 12 to 14 weeks to get here. So the further we go out, the more we're incurring.
I agree with everything Tom just said.
Okay. Well, then that's, again, I apologize for the confusion. I was a little bit more apprehensive.
No, Austin, you're doing the right thing. I'm not, that wasn't criticism at all. It's just, you know, in the grand scheme of things, balancing two different capital and O&M budgets. I understand.
So, and the other thing is, if it's anything like a vehicle that we do, we cut a PO and then we don't pay till the item comes in. So that may be the case with these. Again, I did not seek these quotes. These came from Infomark as they're addressed through Infomark. So I am more than happy to go ahead and get those two, because that will cut, I mean, that's over $5,000 a month cut off the R&M side of things through Infomark.
Does Infomark get any juice on this purchase?
When you say juice, can you explain that?
Do they get 5 or 10% or whatever?
Well, to be honest with you, if we move forward, I would probably work directly with the company, because the PO would come from us. So we would probably just do that ourselves.
Yep. The math is easy, I think.
Okay.
I agree. You want to just approve what you've proposed then?
That's fine. And I would, the Godwin pump is the one that's in here, and it comes with all the fittings. There's another one that was quoted by Freemeyer, not as well known. The Godwin pump is a little bit more well known. We have Godwin equipment already. So I think the recommendation would be the Godwin pump, and then obviously the dewatering dumpster. That's included at the end.
Okay. Do I have a motion on that?
I make a motion to approve the purchase of the Godwin pump and the dewatering dumpster.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Thank you, Austin.
Thank you, guys. I apologize again.
No apology needed. Item 10, open forum general discussion of the emergency funding resolution. Austin and Mike.
So Mike,
Hang
I'll
on one
just kick-
second. Mr. Owen, can you turn on your mic?
good catch, Sharon.
We did not get his vote. Is that correct, Sharon?
Yeah, I
No.
guess we didn't.
I think I could read his lips, but
Just
So-
for the record, Tom, if you could confirm your vote in that last motion, Tom.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, sorry.
Thank you. Good catch, Sharon.
So this resolution has come before you because the application for the emergency funding loan went before we act. It was approved. No real opposition. It was kind of confirmed that a lot of other municipalities are kind of battling the same thing when it comes to headworks issues, when it comes to ragging and so forth. So it went through, it passed. This is standard practice. It comes before the board for a resolution to be approved by us. It goes before city council to be approved by them, and then we would go to closing. Mike, if I missed anything.
No,
Mike, I have a question. I emailed you about it and you didn't understand my question, but I'll ask you again. I should have gotten back to you, by the way. You mentioned bonds in here three times. Where's the bond come in?
So this is, let me put it this way. So the charter provision talks about borrowing money, issuing bonds and certificates of indebtedness. It's reviewed by what we call bond counsel. So what happens on these standard resolutions is our firm obviously represents the board, so we review it. It has to be approved by the city. So Glenn's firm reviews it. And then the bank bond counsel also reviews it. But this pertains to the loan that Austin just spelled out.
It is a 20-year, 2% loan.
So there's no real bond issues. It's just.
No, you're just approving taking out the loan. That's right.
All right. Thank you.
And so that was actually just going to be the only point that I would make. I think Austin teed it up perfectly. The only point I was going to make was to say that it's been reviewed by bond counsel, but then to press his point, that's confusing. So to clarify, the lenders council has reviewed it for the state.
All right. All right.
And Mike, I'm guessing you need to read this by title only? Well, the option.
Right. There's a two-step process. The first is how you want it read, and then the vote on the motion.
Is there a motion to read it by title only?
So moved.
All in favor?
Oh, need a second?
Second.
Got one there. Mike, do you want to read it for us?
Yes, Mr. President, members of the board, resolution number 22-001, a resolution of the Board of Directors of the Board of Public Works of the City of Lewis authorizing the borrowing of $1,750,000 from the Delaware Water Pollution Control Revolving Fund, acting by and through the Delaware Department of Natural Resources and Environmental Control for the purpose of financing the Howard Seymour Water Reclamation Facility, emergency headworks and pump project, and authorizing other necessary action. Mr. President, resolution 22-001 has been read by title only and placed before the board for its consideration and adoption.
Okay. Is there a motion on this?
I make a motion to approve the resolution as read.
Second.
Whatever.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Item 11, open forum general discussion on the letter/request submitted by Rick Quill. Is Rick Quill available?
Here,
I think Josh is going to promote him.
Josh needs to promote him. Yeah.
He has been promoted. He just needs to unmute.
Hello?
Yes.
Hey, Rick.
Hey, Rick.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak in front of this body. I think it's an honor. I just want to say a heartfelt appreciation for Darren and all his empathy that he extended to me in his past. I also want to commend Alston for the professionalism, just first class, and the couple different interactions I had with him in the last couple of months, and welcome Rob into your organization. And what an honest and great guy he is. So congratulations. I'm not going to speak long. I just, to give you a little background, I came from a little community up in Wilmington, in the west side of town. It was called St. Elizabeth's, a blue collar community, where I think growing up, from what I recollect, it was all about family, friends, and neighbors. And they were all we all cared about each other and looked out for each other. I can tell you this, the reason why I'm asking what I'm asking is, and I'm not going to go into a long grievance and a belligerence. What happened has happened. You can't change the past. But I believe there's people up on the panel and a lot of other people in this community, and even to the state offices, DENREC, DelDOT, governor's office, state senators, are aware what my business partner and his wife, Joe and Carla Johnson, I had to go through. And I'll be quite candid with you. I wish that no property owner or no neighbor in this town would ever have to go through that. And if anybody ever wants to find out, I really don't want to discuss it unless you want to call me privately, and I'd be more than happy, and I'd be more than happy to take questions afterwards. So what I want to concentrate on is what the comp plan says. The comp plan says repeatedly, and I welcome every one of the members up there and everybody who's participating to read it. It talks about incentivizing the commercial property owners on the beach side of town, specifically the Savannah corridor. The properties I'm talking about are 203 and 209 East Savannah Road, which fits within those parameters. What we're attempting to do there is finally develop this after 6 years. The one property and the other property was just put on their contract to do them in tandem. What will that do for this town? Again, in my meetings, subsequently meetings to come up before council and other review boards, I will refer to the code and the comp plan exclusively. They are my mission statements. But one of the things is the windfall of property taxes, it'll be perpetual. The fees that you guys will be garnering from those development of those properties, and in particular, transfer taxes would be in the, I can't tell you exactly what it'll be because we're not through the process, but it'd be hundreds of thousands of dollars. I can only tell you that in particularly the last couple of years, we all know that development takes time. We all know that development costs money. But I feel was not warranted the delays and the amusement park rides that this town put me through. I'm just asking as a citizen for, and not with my hat in my hand. I'm not trying to. I didn't come from a place where, that I demand anything. I just think that our case and what we went through deserves some merit for this body, for this Board of Public Works to give us some consideration. And if I can answer any questions, if anybody wants to ask me anything, I'll be more than happy to. And I thank you very much.
For full disclosure, I came from that same community that Rick mentioned and knew the family there. So just want to let everybody know that.
Presser is a little bit more than middle class. Just kidding, Press.
Okay. Thanks, Rick. Anybody have any comments or thoughts or suggestions?
What exactly are you looking for?
There's currently no comments or hand raised.
Sorry, what would you say, Jack? Josh?
What exactly is Mr. Quill looking for?
I think you're gonna have to promote him again, Josh, because he went back to attendee.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we got you.
Yeah, I know that they're in, again, in development. I'm not an expert on development. I used to just buy end lots, and we used to have to either pay an impact fee or whatever, or at EDUs. And I don't know all the lingo in your community. What we're looking for is potential, some assistance. Do I expect a 100% wavering? No. Do I expect 0%? No. I don't know what to expect. All I'm in my petition was that, and I could provide you with information, but I don't really think it's necessary. It was a lot of money spent. There was actually just absolutely wasted in rabbit holes and misinformation and weaponization of ordinance that this town and people up here, some people up on this panel know this, were directed at this particular property on the corner across from Dairy Queen that was not directed against any other property in this town since the implementation of, and I'm being particular now, there's other things that they implement against me, but in particular, the source water protection ordinance was targeted against us over 2 years ago. 2 years ago, and us alone. And when that swap ordinance was passed in this city, because I became not an expert on it, it was enacted in 2007, 2008. And throughout those years, they never implemented against one property owner, not one, except us. And that tied us up. And if people don't know this, that relief on that ordinance, amended ordinance, was just passed this past January. And I couldn't do anything with that ordinance hanging over our heads financially, or move forward with any interest in developing it with partners, or it was just a debilitating condition.
Well, I'm trying to figure out exactly what we, the BPW, versus what the city's charges are and so forth. Our charges really, if I'm correct, are really just the demand charges that we would charge to put in the services.
Impact fees.
I'm sorry, not the impact fees. I'm sorry, not the demand charge. Impact fees. What else are there, Austin?
I think that's exactly what Rick's talking about from the BPW perspective, is the impact fees themselves.
So our consideration then would be, do we reduce one property owner's impact fees versus anybody else that comes and asks us for impact fees reduction? And I know in the past we have not. So I don't know, let somebody else tell me what they're thinking.
And I don't know, and Rick may be able to answer. I don't know if he's looking for an answer tonight. I think it was more of a proposal to the board for consideration.
That's correct. That's correct.
So you do have a question in the chat. It is from Robert, and I believe it's Robert Kennedy. He had asked, would Mr. Quill want to have impact fees paid over time instead of 100% up front?
Yeah, I don't know all the options. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know what the options were. Again, this is an ask. It was an ask based upon, again, the comp plan, the conditions that were presented to this property and this property only. And you either take my word for it, or you can ask people who are involved in this, or in particular, maybe some of my neighbors who are aware throughout the years of my consternation and my angst over this property and the town's treatment. So again, it's an ask. I should tell this body that I've also put an ask in for the town, the city side, because they weaponized DelDOT against me on the Alaska Avenue, and I'm not going to go in all the details. So 5 years after my asking them, when I had these rezonings, and Mr. Panetta can identify with, when we went from general commercial to rezoning to residential, with the purpose of putting 5 single lots down there, were granted almost unanimously from the city council and planning commission. Immediately afterwards, we were informed that the DelDOT was not going to give us any entrances on any of the streets, Savannah or Cape Henlopen, and where the 2 lots sit on. So anyway, I don't want to go on all those details. So what I asked the town for 5 years, and they finally, about 6 months ago, within this time frame, had taken it upon themselves with my request to improve Alaska Avenue. And I'm also asking them, if you don't, a lot of the people don't even know this, on the other side of 2 dips is Alaska Avenue also. So that's my ask of the town. And again, we're bringing a lot of development, and I understand the concern. Well, if we do it for you, Mr. Quill, will that be setting a precedent? I can just share with you. Was it fair for this town to do to me what they never did to anybody else and cause delays in time and money? And we're not talking, $1,000. We're talking hundreds of thousands in carrying costs. We're talking tens of thousands of dollars in engineering and lawyer fees. It was, again, and I'll submit to you, wasted money. It should never have happened. And if it ever happens in the future with any of my neighbors, I'll be on the front line demanding justice for them also. Thank you.
Thanks, Rick.
Thank you.
Let us take this under consideration.
Thank you, press and everybody. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you
Have a
very
great
much.
evening. Thanks.
Thank you. That gets us into old business.
No, number 12.
Excuse me?
Number 12.
Yes. Old business, item 12, open forum, general discussion of finance committee and members. I guess Earl and Mike and Austin.
You would be on new business, item 12, which would be the Savannah Road Sewer Extension Project.
Must have an old.
That's not that it matters. We can do it now. That's 13. I think this may be the thickest board.
Oh, I see. Now I have one I printed off earlier, and then the one that's in the binder, and it's changed. That's what's confusing. I'll use the one in the binder. That was a previous one that evidently was revised. Yeah. Item 12, open forum, general discussion of awarding the bid for Savannah Road Sewer Extension Project. Sorry.
No, you're fine, press. Josh, can you put Vince in this? So while Vince is coming in, so this project is mainly in regards to, it's kind of a 2-part. Dutchman's Harvest and the Lodge of Historic Lewis. This is the sewer project that will be kind of extended for them, and then down Donovan's Road, and then ultimately Donovan Smith will be coming in there as well. So it's a 2-part project. It was really who project-wise went first. So if Donovan Smith went first, this would have kind of switched roles, and this would have came earlier, or vice versa. Again, Mike could talk about this later, but it seems like both of them may occur fairly similar timeframes. But Vince, do you want to go ahead and go into the bids themselves?
Sure. Good evening, everyone. The Board of Public Works received bids last week on the 18th, January 18th, for the Savannah Road Water and Sewer Main Extension Project. 4 bids were submitted. The 4 companies were Mumford and Miller, Adel Construction, Teal Construction, and Richard Pearson Construction Company. The high base bid was received from Teal in the amount of $1,851,000, and the low base bid was received from Mumford and Miller for $1,254,517. There were 2 bid alternates, only one of which I think we're recommending award for. GMB had done an engineer's estimate prior to the bidding, and our estimate was approximately $1.3 million. So we have looked at the bids and we reviewed Mumford and Miller's bid. There was a minor mathematical error which has been corrected. It was minor to the extent that did not change the bid results or the bid order, et cetera. Mumford and Miller, there's a relationship there with Mumford and Miller and both the city and the Board of Works. They've done projects for both. And they are currently doing the project in the same vicinity as the Savannah Road Water Main and Sewer Extension project. They're doing the project for DelDOT. If you've been down Savannah Road and you see the sidewalk project that DelDOT's undertaking right now, they are the contractor, and the board had contracted or entered an agreement with DelDOT on that project to have DelDOT install the 16 water services within Savannah Road and a portion of water main that crosses Savannah Road. And they've completed that work under that contract. So there's somewhat of a relationship there with Mumford and Miller. Again, we reviewed the bids, didn't find any problems with the bids. And as such, GMB is recommending that we award to Mumford and Miller in the amount of $1,287,768. That includes the total base bid and alternate number one. And alternate number one is for the milling and paving of the southbound lane within Donovan's Road. That was a bid alternate that was requested from DelDOT. Whether or not it'll be exercised will depend on the timing of the Donovan Smith project, which I understand we'll hear a little update in this meeting on that agreement and where that stands. So.
What's the schedule on this, Vince?
So we want to move. We're still hearing of all the supply chain problems and availability. Contracts are telling us that it's still 10, 12 weeks to get materials, piping. With that kind of lead time, that probably puts us somewhere around May 1st, plus or minus May 1st start date. If we award, let's say we award, we get contracts out, return signed in the next couple of weeks, and we give a notice to proceed sometime mid to end of February. You know, when you look at 10 weeks or so of lead time, you're in April, May timeframe to start. The project has a 4-month completion date, 120 calendar day completion date. This is a project, even though it's DelDOT right away, it is a project that because of traffic counts and such, we are allowed to work through the summer, and
that was my question. Yeah.
That we're anticipating that we would work through the summer. And I'm sure some of you are aware that the Workforce Housing Project and the Dutchman's Harvest Project, they need this sanitary sewer to connect into the system. So we need to have this complete. And the commitment that was made to them was fall of 2022. So we're on schedule to meet that commitments, but
Boy,
with an April, May start.
I guess I'm just a little surprised that the traffic count allowed that. With Savannah being so busy. Yeah. Good.
And I guess I was going to say, Vince, to add to that, this also brings services to the strip mall that's there, where the Lewis Diner is, and it also to the 2 houses to the right. If you're facing Donovan's Road, it will bring services, cleanouts, and curb stops to both of those properties, even the one that's kind of islanded basically surrounded by DelDOT. And that is actually going to be utilized through the DelDOT right away within the railroad right away.
So Press, most of the disruptive work is going to be on Donovan's, and it's not really going to start until about the bike path and the rail easement area, the 66-foot right of way there. The work that is within DelDOT's jurisdiction in Savannah Road is all underground. It's a jack and bore.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So the Savannah Road project will be a jack and bore project exclusively?
The section that crosses from the parking lot to Atlantic Drive will be all jack and board. And then there's a section that crosses, it's actually a 60 foot right away. That'll be jack and board also.
Okay,
Steel
good.
casing.
That's good.
Yeah, the only bit of open cut will be in the parking lot. And then I believe there's somewhere in the neighborhood of 900 feet of open cut sanitary sewer work that continues down Donovan's and connects into Savannah Place. The water main work really ends just on the other side of the bike path.
Once you get on Atlantic Drive, will that be open cut or will that be jack and board too? To get to the.
So the only, that'll be open cut. That'll be open cut. There is a stub coming out of that manhole into the Dutchman's Harvest property that's part of this project. That by plan, that is planned to be open cut.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Is there a motion on the recommendation?
Well, I'll make a motion that we accept the bid so we can get the work started.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Thank you, Vince.
Sure.
Thanks, Vince.
All right. I'll see y'all.
Okay.
See ya.
Now on to old business. Open forum, general discussion of the Finance Committee and members. Earl, Mike, Austin.
I'll jump in and anybody else, feel free to follow as well. We sat down and started, what we requested, I guess, in the last meeting is for people to send us recommendations of people to be on the Finance Committee. What we realized when we got together shortly after that is that because we've never had a committee, we didn't really have a process on how to bring committee members in. And there was some questions about, do you get board approval first? Do you talk to people first? And we kind of went back and forth on it. Where we ended up with the advice of counsel and people smarter than us was we will in fact still look for people to be recommended to the Finance Committee. We'll have conversations with those people because we want to make sure that they want to be involved in the process. What we didn't want to have happen though is what happened, if you read the Cape Gazette from yesterday in Rehoboth, where people were nominated for a committee and they were all rejected. And, unfortunate to have that happen in public. So we wanted to make sure that we had a process that if we went to someone and we talked to them, but then we come to the board for approval, which we should do, we want to make sure that that's not something public where somebody is publicly told they can't be on the committee. So we worked with Mike Hoffman to kind of come up with an approach to make sure that we were within FOIA, but also respecting the rights of the people and the wishes of the people that may wish to come on that committee, that they don't come in and then next thing you know, there's a public meeting saying that they're not on. Mike, do you kind of want to walk us through the approach that you came up with?
Sure, it's actually pretty simple. The idea here is that in the resolution that was adopted by the board, the onus falls on the co-chairs to identify names, and so Earl and Richard as the co-chairs would get together and come up with a list of names. They would then give those names to Austin, and Austin would circulate those names to the entire board. Essentially, it's a consent agenda approach, meaning that when Austin sends the names, they would say, these names will individually be on the next consent agenda. Does anybody request to remove a name? And any board member can raise an objection. That name comes off. So then when the consent agenda is published, the names that there isn't an objection to are on the agenda. Now, then it's up to Richard and Earl to determine whether they bring anybody removed to the full board for discussion. That discussion would have to happen in public under FOIA.
Yeah.
Very similar to the process the city uses in appointing board committee assignments.
It was new for us, so we had to go through a thoughtful process. So it was helpful. We appreciate it.
Do we need to take action on this, or is this just
I
information?
don't,
No.
I don't think there's any action other than if people have people that want to submit, send them to us. At the next meeting, we'll have vetted people and go through the process that Mike opined on.
Okay.
Richard, anything you would add or change?
No.
Okay.
Well, thanks for all your hard work on this. It's setting some precedents for us that we needed.
We're all learning.
Item 14, open forum general discussion mitigation committee resolution. And I guess that's Mike and Austin. Mike, do you want to?
Sure, I can take this from here. I'll fall on my sword a little bit, but then we can advance. When we met last time at the joint November meeting, I was tasked with updating the draft resolution for the mitigation committee for the board's consideration during this meeting. In those updates, I did not incorporate one change, and press pointed that out. So the draft that was circulated to you is missing one revision, which I can point out to the board here, but it should otherwise incorporate the changes that we discussed, and I'll walk through those. The change that I missed, and that would the revision to the document that you have is first on line 39. The board had discussed, instead of setting the title of a board member, the board member assigned to the mitigation committee would be selected by the board. So that change would simply be the mitigation committee shall be comprised of 7 members, 3 of whom shall include the general manager of the Lewis BPW, and then a member of the board selected by the board, as opposed to board title. So that's the change that I missed, and that's the revision there. To correspond to that change, another change would have to be made on line 47, which would now read, the member selected by the board shall serve as chair. And then on line 62, the mitigation committee may invite non-members to meetings as deemed necessary by the chair. So those are the revisions to the document you have in front of you that I failed to mention based on the prior conversation. What the changes that I did make based on the prior conversation, the board talked about including a standing committee member to be a liaison, or the liaison with the city. And so we accomplished that on line 40, where the 3rd standing member is a member selected by the mayor and city council of the city of Lewis. So then that becomes the liaison between the board and the city. There was also a discussion on the appointments being made on June 1st. And so that is reflected in line 43. And there was also a discussion that the membership be staggered. And the way that I proposed accomplishing that, the 3 standing members are who they are. So they can serve, 8-10 years, depending on who that person is. And that's the general manager, the member selected by the board, the member selected by the city. So that's not going to be a term specific member. That's just a standing member. So the staggered terms come from the remaining 4 members. So if you look at lines 43 and 44, beginning June 1 for this year, and I just picked June, it's whenever this goes into effect, but beginning June 1, so the terms are June 1, except that 3 members selected whenever this goes into effect shall serve until May 31, 2025, and 1 member selected in whatever month shall serve until May 31st, 2024. You can make it 2 and 2. I mean, but the bottom line here is that the membership is, instead of all 4 members having their terms expire at the same time, you're going to stagger it. And again, I just picked 3 and 1 to keep the maximum amount of people with their 3-year term, but you can have 2 and 2 in that initial year, however you want to try to stagger it.
Tom, you have any thoughts? Or anyone else? I'm just starting off with you.
No, I think it's what we discussed last time, and I have no comments.
Anybody else? I didn't mean to pick on Tom. Are you ready to have the resolution read?
The press, if I can just point out
Go ahead.
two quick things. The first point is we talked last time about just generally the committee's responsibilities include periodic review of resiliency of all Lewis BPW utility systems. That's the only charge to the committee right now per this resolution. You can add to that, you can limit it to that, but I know that you all had specifically asked for that. So that's one. The other thing that I would recommend, so is the intention to, at the next board meeting, nominate members of the committee? When do you intend to fill this?
I would think so. I think, I mean, unless anybody has any thoughts about spending more time on that.
No.
No.
Yeah.
And,
Okay.
and actually, as I sit here, maybe instead of talking about a specific month, maybe on lines 43 and 44, it reads, except that 3 members selected for the initial board shall serve until, and 1 member selected for the initial board shall serve. And then it's whenever that selection happens. That would be my recommendation there. And assuming you all agree with that, the only question is, are you okay with 3 and 1 to do that stagger, or would you rather have it 2 and 2?
I don't have a preference.
I'm sorry, Mike, can you repeat that one more time?
Sure. So there are 4 members where we're trying to stagger the terms. So instead of all
Right.
4 terms expiring at the same time, you have some consistency. I've drafted it right now that 3 members' terms would expire at once, 1 member's would expire separate. You can also have it 2 and 2. I mean, it's whatever the will of the board is.
Well, from a continuity perspective, would the 2 and 2 make more sense?
Sounds like it to me, but
Yeah, I mean, I just hate to lose institutional knowledge to create that staggering.
It makes sense to me. That just means you're going to have 2 members who are going to serve with a shortened first term, and which is fine. But I mean, that's just what it means.
But there are no term limits, so they could serve, for a second full term.
That's right. That's correct.
Does that match or mesh with the duration of the board members?
So this is set, so the committee, you have your initial committee that's going to be appointed, and then thereafter it'll be June 1st of each year. So I think it's not direct, but it's around the time of the election.
It'd probably be good then, because the new members will be, well, the new council, whatever it is, the board would be installed. And we can make decisions there, and then they could work with the members of the committee, the non-board members. So it might be good to stagger it that way.
And that's what we discussed last time. And matter of fact, it was pointed out because the finance committee is appointed in April, which probably something we need to revise down the line because that's the month before the election.
Yeah, yeah.
So there's no further, just to clarify what you have the motion in front of you. The proposed revisions based on this discussion would be to line 39 to change board title to a member of the board selected by the board. That same change is on line 47. On line 62, we're changing co-chairs to chair because there's only 1 chair. In addition, instead of 3 members selected, so on lines 43 and 44, instead of selected in a blank month, it will be 2 members selected for the initial board and then 2 members selected for the initial board. Those are the revisions to what was circulated.
We're ready to move forward with it. I guess we need a motion to read the resolution by title only.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay. Mike, do you mind reading it?
Mr. President, members of the board, resolution number 22-002, a resolution of the Board of Directors of the Board of Public Works of the City of Lewis regarding the creation of a mitigation committee. Mr. President, resolution 22-002 has been read by title only and placed before the board for its adoption and consideration.
Okay. Do I have a motion on the resolution as read?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Thanks, Mike.
And the finance committee is actually listed not by name, but by title. That is a distinction with a difference.
Yeah, but didn't we discuss that that would be appropriate, that the treasurer would be that person, where this was a little bit, not as aimed at any one officer? I think we discussed that the last time.
For the finance committee or for the?
No, for the finance committee, we
Finance
were
committee.
saying, we discussed that topic. And I think it was decided that for the finance committee, the treasurer is a logical person to head it up,
Right.
rather than any other officers. But
That was
in
my
this committee,
understanding.
it wasn't that obvious.
Agreed. We just agreed.
Okay. All right. Item 15, open forum general discussion regarding the updated DPW policies and compilation. Mike, thank you so much for doing this, and Earl and Tom for getting it started, but this was a lot of work, it looks like. Do you want to go through it, Mike and Earl?
So what we were thinking from a process perspective, everybody's got this. It's probably fairly new for most of us having read through this initially. The thought is that there are some things in this document that may be easy, and there's some things that may be more challenging with more detail and effort needed to kind of get them approved. What we were looking to do was to schedule a working session to actually go through this. And the idea is that everybody would have read through the package. They would be able to say, look, this is easy. This is donations. We agree with it. We can move forward to that, give that to Mike, and Mike can then, do it in an official way and get it put into a document for us to approve at the next board meeting. On the ones that may be more challenging, because, when we go through these things in detail, we may come up with different variations of things that need to change. And if that's the case, we would want to make sure that we had one or two people working on each one of those, so we can come back to the board. We approve the ones that we thought were easy, and we have the ability then to have some thoughtful conversations around the ones that were hard and where we think we may need to modify or change them in some way to get them approved by the board. So the idea is whatever is easy, we can do. Whatever isn't easy, we need to have a process around which we can assign a person or two to each one of those. The way to kind of structure from a timing perspective is have a working session, have this discussed in a working session, and then hopefully in the next meeting, we are able to do the ones that are easy and get those signed off. The ones that are hard, we've had some effort wrapped around that, and hopefully we can get those approved either in that meeting or in the next.
So you're thinking this next session that you're proposing is that we would go through it and split them there, or would you do that ahead of time?
Well, we would do that at that session. I would hope most people would have read through it and kind of marked up what they already thought was easy, and we can easily go through the easies, hopefully, and can then have them put pen to paper from Mike for the actual documentation.
Okay.
And this would be a workshop.
That is correct, yes.
Separate from the board meeting, but in addition to the board meeting. Yes?
That is correct.
Okay.
That sounds like a good process. Go ahead, Mike.
Just structurally for those, as the board works through this document, what this is, everything that you see there is existing policy, existing regulation. The changes based on our prior discussions are what is shown as strike through and underline. So if you see a strike through and an underline, those were revisions that my office prepared based on our prior discussion. If there isn't a strike through and an underline, that is existing policy. So what you're doing is you're going through and identifying what should be left alone and what should be changed. So that as Earl mentioned in that first go around, if you can go through and adopt, make the decision that we're making these simple changes, everything else is being left alone for now, and then identify what existing policies you want to take a deeper dive into and consider for future change.
Am I correct that the items that are marked in yellow have to do with a placeholder that needs to be defined?
Excellent point, Richard. Yes. So what my office also did is we tried to make the changes that we could based on the prior discussion, but there are some that just need additional feedback, and that's highlighted in yellow. Yes.
So that's our homework, to go through to read through it and kind of grade things. So when we get back together, we can all vote on which ones go where. Okay.
So,
Go ahead.
Can we target a workshop for next month now? Is that possible? Or is it
Sure.
something we decide later?
We could do it now. I'm hopefully going to be away next month, but I could join by computer, by Zoom.
Yeah.
I was thinking about meetings going forward. I was reading, I guess yesterday in the paper, that the COVID in Delaware has dropped like 30% in the last 2 weeks. Hopefully that'll continue. There's some experts saying that we've hit our peak, and hopefully maybe we can get together again personally in a short time. I don't have to be there if we get back together personally. I don't know what my schedule is, to be honest with you right now. As I mentioned previously, my sister is very ill, and I don't know what her condition is going to be going forward while we're supposed to be away. So that my schedule might change. But when would you like to meet, to have the first meeting?
Well, I was going to suggest, because I agree with you, Press. From what's coming out from the governor's office, it sounds like the mask mandates and maybe these Zoom sessions will go away. I think the workshop would be easier to do in person
I do too, yeah.
than over this, as someone said, Brady Bunch squares. So hopefully by the latter part of February.
Well, we have the board meeting the fourth Wednesday in April, the regular board meeting, right?
In April?
Yeah,
February.
23rd, I believe.
Right.
Yes,
And
it is the 23rd.
either by Zoom or in person. And so does it make sense to have the workshop a week apart from that, or a day apart? I mean, what?
I was going to say, just keep in mind, you're going to have 2 workshops, because you're going to have a workshop that I'm going to be coming to you from Dawn Lund on financial projection and rate design. So just keep that in the back of your mind. That one could probably be done virtually. It's more of a conversation and presentation by Dawn. She will be virtually regardless if we're in person or not, but just for a planning purpose.
But also in February?
Yes.
Okay.
When would she be ready, do you think, Austin?
And it's up to you. I can go over those dates now. I have them. I was going to do them for the item at the end. But she has dates as January 31st, February 1st, the 9th, the 10th, the 11th, the 14th, and the 21st.
Because I was just thinking, if she's going to be online anyway, that's one that we could maybe do online first. And then maybe a little bit later in the month, try to do the in-person for the workshop, because that's a little more face-to-face worthy.
And
That makes a lot of sense.
just point of whatever. Keep in mind that this format here only works for so long as the state of emergency exists. Once the state of emergency goes away, you can still meet virtually, but you need somebody at an anchor location. One board member needs to be present at an anchor location. So we'll have to monitor what that state of emergency is, because that will dictate whether you need a board member at the anchor location.
Yeah, and unfortunately, January 31st doesn't give us 7 days notice.
Yeah, you mean
Otherwise, I
for
would
dawn.
suggest that.
But the
So
anchor
who was it?
location is in Lewis or at BPW?
Yes.
Either one.
How about the 10th for Dawn Lund? How about the 10th? That's a Thursday.
Well, I just wanted to give you those dates in preparation for item 18 or 17. So just for your planning for this item and scheduling a workshop, knowing the dates that I provided for Dawn's, and that's based off her availability.
Well, what about the 10th?
For which one?
Dawn. For Dawn.
I would say that for the 2 items from now. I would focus on scheduling your date for your policies, and then we'll focus on Dawn.
The only reason I say is because we'd like the policies to be more in person, which we have a better chance of doing that later in the month. If we had to do it, via Zoom, we could. So maybe doing her first to get that started and done and out of the way. And then later in the month, have the
Workshop.
follow-up workshop. Yeah, thank you.
You could still plan it now, sure. You don't have to wait until the next item. Just
Yeah.
So I'm okay for the 10th of January for Dawn. Is there a time?
Anytime.
Anytime.
I'm okay, except between 11:30 and 1.
How about in the morning, 9 o'clock or 9:30 or?
I'm okay with that. I mean, I'm clear that day.
As am I.
what time did you say, 9:30 or?
Yeah, 9:30, let's say 9:30. I just picked it down.
I should know this, but is Michigan on the same time as us, or are they 1 hour behind?
1 hour behind.
Okay, so take that into consideration too, because she's in Michigan. Maybe 10. Give her start time of 9.
Done.
Okay,
So 10 a.m. at the 10th, that's easy.
That'll be easier than the meeting will be.
And that's presumed a Zoom?
That will be, and we can do that in person or Zoom, but she will be Zoom.
Okay.
Can we plan it to be Zoom?
That is fine.
I'll
That way-
easier for me to join. Well, I could join either way, I guess.
Yeah, well, anybody who's at a distance or.
You guys could all meet still.
I'd be very surprised if the meeting in person would be lifted before the 10th.
Yeah.
That's fine. We'll proceed as Zoom if anything changes.
Chris, is there any date for you to be back here, or is that's just a complete unknown for you, right?
No, my original plan is to come back sometime around the 7th of March. I'd be back.
Would you
And
be?
I think that's I think that end of the vacation is gonna hold.
Yeah. Would you be okay being online for that, for the workshop, even if we're in person?
Sure, yeah.
In February, just to get it done?
Yep. I'll let you guys plan it, so, it's impacting you more than me.
Anybody have any?
I'd like to have it done in the morning, obviously, to get it over with, so like the rest of my day would be free.
Agreed.
You're in the same time, you're in Florida,
Yeah,
right?
I'll just be in Florida.
Well, you want to go with the same time call at 10 a.m.? What date would work for people? Any dates that don't work for people?
Well, I would prefer Wednesday or Friday. Are we talking about the week of the 14th?
Didn't give a week.
Well, because the week after is BPW, is the BPW meeting.
Right.
If we were trying to do this to be ready for the BPW meeting,
So Wednesday, the 16th?
the 16th or the 18th, it works best for me.
I can do the
16th, good.
16th works for me.
16th in the morning is okay.
10 o'clock, all right?
What time, 10?
10? I was just trying to keep it consistent with the other one.
That works for me. I just would ask the same courtesy if I could participate virtually, please.
Yes. And we may all be in that exact same boat for all we know. Okay, so February, 10 a.m. on the 16th.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Good job, Earl and Mike.
Great team
Item-
effort.
Item 16, open forum general discussion on update of Donovan Smith Mobile Home Park water sewer project. Mike.
Yes, so we spoke last time, this was during the November-December joint meeting, about how everybody had approved the MOU and everything was teed up to go to WEAC for approval, and everybody was happy to reach the finish line. There were, following that, some additional revisions that were requested. But I can happily and gladly report today that we are, everybody has agreed, everybody is ready to sign. WEAC has approved the increase in the loan. So everything is teed up. There is one final revision that the owner has requested to the indemnification clause, which we will speak about briefly in executive session, and then hopefully take action following that executive session on that one item. But once that is clarified, then all parties have signaled that they are ready to sign. WEAC has approved, and we should be able to move forward on this.
You hope. Yeah, well, that's great news. It's amazing news. I hopefully
5 years.
Yeah. And I don't know how much time of Mike's and everybody else's.
Yeah, that's like
Yours and Darren's, everyone's. Okay, item 17, open forum, general discussion of an update of the Lewis BPW financial projection and setting a date for the public workshop. Well, I think we've pretty much done that. Do you want anything else you want to add to that, Austin, about where we are?
So obviously we're going to schedule something on the 10th at 10 a.m. Just as a quick update, we've been working through changes in the capital budget that, coincide with what we're seeking for, hopefully seeking for ARPA funds through WEAC for potential projects. Both Earl, Kim, Press, and myself met with Dawn one time in October, clarified some things. We got everything back to her that she needs to look at. She will be looking at all 4 utilities, including stormwater, water, wastewater, and electric. And it will be kind of a continuation from the presentation she put on in July. So it would be very interesting. I can tell you across the board that inflation is there. So, there will be increases across the board. There's no doubt about it.
Okay. Well, as we've talked about in the past couple of meetings, we got a lot of upgrades we need, particularly with the water system. In addition to all the the wastewater system. All right. Call to the public. Anybody out there that has their hand up?
Right now, there's no hands raised. Robert had a question in the Q&A. He was referencing there's no hyperlink in document after 15. Is that accurate, Sharon?
I'm working on it right now, trying to see what the disconnect is.
Well, there is none. That's the reason.
Oh, well, okay.
15, yeah, 16 was the Donovan Smith updates. There was no attachment for that. And 17 was just picking the day.
Right.
Okay.
If there's no other questions from the public, then call to the press. I don't know if Nick's still on or not.
Oh, he's
Nope,
left.
he just jumped off a few minutes ago.
Okay, okay. So do I have a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
Second,
All in favor?
aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Open session. Well, that was good. Austin did that, right?
Yeah.
Good move. Do we have a motion to approve? Was the waiver
Make a
of,
motion to approve the Donovan Smith agreement with the changes to liability
there you go.
as outlined.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Approved. Do I have a motion to go into to quit?
So moved.
Don't move to quit.
Find that word, press.
All right, guys.
So moved,
Thank
we
you
all
very much.
resign.
So that's on the record too. It was recorded, wasn't it?
Yeah.
All right. Good evening. Thank you very much.